Hi guys, and welcome to this video where we're going to learn to solve some issues with the Pocket 3 in low light situations. In particular, when you're out and about in a street, for example, there's quite a lot of bright lights, and that can cause issues known as like ghosting and sort of halo effects around the bright lights. So we're going to show you how you can the causes for this, and also how to actually solve them. Alright, with no further ado, let's start the video. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you can deal with some of the issues that you get with a low light video on the Pocket 3. Now, notice we have a very bright light source here. As I walk, you can see what I call ghosting on from the light source, kind of like a glare. It's got kind of like a sort of halo around it. Now, this issue is caused by too much of a low shutter speed. So I'm in auto mode at the moment, and change it to manual mode. We can see at the moment that my shutter speed is 1/30th of a second and my ISO is down at 200, and you can see, as you get some sort of ghosting effect. Now my frame rate is set, I think, to 1/30 frames per second. So ideally I need to set my shutter speed to be twice my frame rate, so at a minimum of 160, kind of a 180-degree rule, so let's set it to 160, and I can then compensate by pushing up my ISO just to make it back again. And notice you still find there is still a little bit of a halo effect around the light source. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep increasing our shutter speed effectively to probably double, or 4 times our frame rate, so 120. And as soon as you do that, notice that the halo effect seems to be less, and it's not completely disappeared, but it's certainly less. So I'm just going to increase my shutter speed even further to 1/24. And notice now we start to get a lot more atmosphere on my low light shot, and we don't get the halo effect. We can increase the ISO a couple of stops just to bring it up to look a bit brighter. But immediately it's looking much nicer, I think, compared to what it was in automatic mode. There's still a little bit of a ghosting, so I'm just going to reduce it back down to something like that. Now you can see that I think that looks much nicer in a shot. So if I move past underneath it, we don't get that sort of strange effect that we had with a slower shutter speed. Let me go back and show you in comparison if we change it to 1/30. Okay, so now I'm going to reset it down to back to 1/30, so shutter speed back over 1/30, and of course we have a really bright image. I'm just going to now reduce my shutter speed, my ISO should I say, back down to compensate, maybe 100. But as I get closer, you can see there's quite a lot of sort of ghosting on the light source. Kind of, if I stop about here, you can kind of notice it at this area here. So that's that's an issue caused by too much of a slow shutter speed as compared to my frame rate. So the solution to this, as I said, is to increase the shutter speed to maybe 4 times your frame rate. So we're talking about 120 or 240, and then we can actually increase the ISO to a bit more of a level to make it look a bit nicer, and immediately we get a much better picture compared to previously. Let's just give that a go, and you can see we immediately get much less ghosting in the image compared to before, and we don't get so much jitter. Okay, so here is another example. As we walk down the street here, we can see right by the light sources quite a lot of a sort of halo, kind of a blurry effect as we pass under the light sources. So it looks, again, the image looks quite a little bit jittery as I walk, and there's certainly a little bit of ghosting going on my image. So again, this is due with a too slow shutter speed in comparison to my frame rate. So let's just stop for a moment, and we're going to go back, and we're going to retrace my steps, but we're going to do exactly the same thing again, but we're going to set our shutter speed to 4 times, a little my frame rate. I keep saying 4 times, but basically 1:240 compared to my 30 frames per second. Let's go to manual exposure. I'm going to set my shutter speed to 1 over, let's try 100, whatever, it's 120. You can usually see the image is looking less jittery, and there's less halos around the lights. And if we set it to 1 over 240, they almost disappear, but of course the image is now too dark, so I'm just going to increase my ISO a couple of notches up, and it's also going to make it a little bit more atmospheric, I think, in comparison to what it was when it's too bright. Maybe 1 over 1600, something like that. Let's just give that a record, and we're going to pass under the light sources, and there is still a bit of ghosting around the lights, but it's certainly better than it was before. But as I go into the darker area, it's looking a little bit too dark, so I'm just going to try that sequence again. I'm going to just boost up the ISO another notch and just see what looks right to my eyes. Okay, let's give that another go. So to my eyes now, it certainly looks like there's far less ghosting around the lights, and the overall image is kind of a bit more realistic to what I'm actually seeing in my eyes. It's not too bright, there's not too much ghosting going on, and there's not too much jitter either. Okay guys, well I hope that video is useful, and if it is, of course, I appreciate if you could give a thumbs up and a like, and don't forget, of course, to subscribe to the channel for more videos and tips about Pocket 3 and other gadgets and gizmos. Alright, take care, see you soon.